In this lesson, we're going to apply a normal map shader to our character, and we'll do this by altering one of the example shaders. Now keep in mind that you'll need a nice graphics card in order to view and use some of these shaders. Let's go ahead and go to our basic app folder. I'll pull that up. Now inside of the folder, let's go inside the media folder. Let's go ahead and enter the materials folder, and then we'll go into the programs folder. Inside of the programs folder are all the different shaders that we can use with Ogre. You're free to make some of your own and integrate them in Ogre, but right now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and tweak this offset mapping shader and set it up in a way that we can use either the normal mapping part of it or the offset mapping or parallax mapping part of it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's edit the offset mapping shader file. It's just a simple text file, so you can use your favorite editor. I'm going to go ahead and start using Edit Plus, which is what we use here at Digital Tutors. So the offset mapping is just the parallax mapping code, the parallax mapping shader, and it consists of two parts. The main VP, which is the vertex program that goes through all the vertices. It's also called as the vertex shader. And we have the main FP, or the fragment program, and this is what goes through every pixel and does a bunch of calculations to it. Now, the parallax mapping or offset mapping shader is just the normal map shader that takes the height map into account to distort the UVs. That's the code that goes on over here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make a switch, and we'll go in and check that switch and say, okay, if the value is a certain amount, we'll go ahead and disregard some of this code and just use the simple data for making normal maps. But if it's not, we'll leave the code as is over here and let that get executed and do the parallax stuff with it. So right now, let's go ahead and set that up. We're going to need to make a new variable for checking that switch, so let's do that in here. Let's go below the place where the scale bias is declared and type in uniform, which means that the value doesn't change for every pixel we go through. We'll do uniform and make it just a simple float, just one value, and we'll just call this our NP switch, just short for the normal or parallax switch, and it with a comma here. And then we'll just go here, right above where we calculate the diffuse values, and we'll just say if NP switch is equal to 0, then we'll calculate our normal map. Else, if it's not, then we'll just go in here and do the calculations for the parallax map or the offset map. So with that in there, so if we want to use the parallax map code, we just need to take this and move it in here. So now the values of the normal and the diffuse here will be calculated with the new texture coordinate data, which is synthesized from the displacement values here. Right in this area, this is where the new texture coordinates are calculated. But if we want to use just the normal map part, we don't use the new texture coordinate, we just use the old one, which is passed in here, just the UV, the same one that's used in here. So we can do that by just copying this and pasting it in there, and instead of using the new text coord, we'll just use the UV coord. So just type in UV and UV. But now you cannot have you cannot declare the same variable twice in your code. So we'll just declare these guys out of the switch, out of the if statement. We'll do float 3 normal, semicolon, float 3 diffuse. We'll declare these guys out here so we can get rid of these float 3s inside of our code. So now that's the change that we made to this. And instead of just saving and overriding the offset mapping file, let's just do a save as. We'll go to File, Save As, and we'll just save this as our own mapping file. Let's just call it normal parallax mapping. We'll just save that out, and we'll end up using the code in here for in our material. So let's go ahead and set that up. We'll need to set up the material, so we'll go to our programs folder and we'll go up a level. We have actually made the normal parallax mapping code here. We'll just go up a level into our scripts, and we'll go to the offset mapping material, and we'll also open that in our editor. Now over here we have all the different code that basically hooks up into the shader or into the program that later Ogre can read. What we need to do now is we need to go ahead and change the sources. The sources over here are reading the old files. We're not going to go ahead and deal with this the assembly code here, so we can just get rid of this part. And we need to change this one so it uses our new shader, which is the normal parallax mapping.cg. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Just get rid of the offset word and just do normal parallax. Let's copy that over and replace it here. Now, one thing that's important is the name of the fragment program and the vertex program over here. It needs to have a unique name, so we cannot use these names here. So let's go in and replace it with one of our own. We'll just call it NP, just short for the normal parallax. So just NPVP, and we'll replace this part here, and we'll call it NPFP. So we've made that change. Now we need to change all the other references in the code, so we'll need to get rid of this part, NPVP, and this one as well. We'll call it NPFP. So we have changed the names of the references that we're going to use to these ones over here, which are going to use the new shader that we made. So we can just do that, and we'll just leave this part of the code as it is. The code that we're going to tweak is mainly this one over here. So one of the few things we need to do is to change the textures. It's using some other texture here. So let's go ahead and copy these from our pictures folder in the XSI project. I've got the game man normal map that I need to copy, so copy it. And then we're going to go in here and paste it in our textures. So I have my game man normal and the other one in there. So we can just write those names in here. I will just make this a little bit simple, and I'll just hit F2 on the file name, Control C to copy, and I'll replace it here. This is for the normal map, and it's just the normal map right now, so I'll scrap that. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy the name for the color map and paste it in here. So we have our normal map and our color map in there. But now we need to go ahead and pass in that variable for that switch, the NP switch. We'll do it right down here below where the scale bias stuff is done. Param named NP switch, and we'll set the value to float and 0. So because it's 0, it's going to go ahead and use the normal map. Once again, let's do a save as, and I'll just save this as the normal parallax mapping material. Do that save here. Let's go back to our basic app, and we'll need to use a different material name. Let's go back to the editor, and like I said before, you want to make sure that the material name is unique. So let's go in here and call this a low res normal map. I'm going to call it just that. Let's copy it and save it, of course. And now let's go back to our basic app and replace this string here with it. So we have got that done. Now let's run this and see what the result gives us. Click OK. We're going to use OpenGL. And right now, there's nothing in our scene. The reason why there's nothing in there is mainly because there is no lights in our scene. The normal map shader needs to use at least one light. So we need to add a light in our scene. We'll go ahead and take care of that in the next lesson.